For my final project, I created an app called Roomy. For this project, I wanted to create a tool that helps roommates stay organized. I wanted the user to be able to add and edit their roommates, and also be able to easily keep track of items they needed to buy, tasks or chores they needed to complete, or shows they wanted to watch together. This is the class diagram for my project. The view controller is the main initial view of the app, where the user can press the View Roommates button to see or add roommates, and the 3 to buy, to do, and to watch buttons to add to the 3 separate lists. Each roommate's information is stored in core data in the roommate list model object, which contains the name of the roommate, their color, and a photo. The roommate list table view controller is the class that controls the table view to view all of the roommates. There is an add button at the bottom of the screen, also a button that allows you to edit and delete roommates. The add button takes you to the add roommate view controller, which allows the user to add the name of the roommate, their color, their photo, and add this to the list. They will also get an error message if they do not input info for one of these fields. Once they add roommates, they can go to any of the 3 lists. The first list is the list of things to buy, called the to buy list. Each item in this list is stored in the buy list model object, which contains the name of the object or item, the roommate that should buy this item, and the date that they should buy it by. When they go to the To Buy screen, they'll be taken to the Groceries Table View controller, which is a table view that lists all of the items that they want to buy. It'll also display in the color of the roommate they selected, and will display the date. There is an Add button as well as an Edit and Delete button. The Add button will take you to the Groceries Table View controller, where the user can add the name, the roommate, and the date that they should buy these items. There will also be an error message if they do not enter correctly. Once an item is added to from this view, they will be taken back to the Groceries Table View controller, where they can see all of the items that they've added to this list. The second view is the Chores Table View controller, which will be taken to when you press the To Do button. Each of these items are stored in a do list model object, which contains the name, the roommate, and the date for each chore. On this table view, they'll list all of the chores that they've added. They can press the Add button, which will take them to the Chores View controller. This is where they can add the fields for the name, the roommate, and the date for each chore. They'll be taken back to the Chores Table View controller once this button is pressed, where they can view all of the chores that they've added. They can also click on each table cell to go to the edit screen, where they can edit the chores that they've already added. The final list is the watch list, which contains movies that the roommates want to watch together, and each of these objects are stored in the watch list model object, which contains the name, the roommate, and the date of each movie. The movies table view controller is the table view of all the movies that the roommates want to watch together. There's also an Add button, which will take them to the movies view controller, where they can add the name, the roommate, and the date of each movie that they want to watch. There is also a Find Showtimes button, which will allow the user to will take them to a web view, which will show the show times of the movie that they entered. So for each view controller where you're adding items to the lists, I added functions called edit roommate or create roommate, or edit item, edit task, create show, and edit show. So I have segue methods that will tell me when the user reached the screen to edit a roommate, or they reached that view controller to create a roommate. And if they are editing a roommate, I will segue in the information of the roommate they're editing, so it will populate the screen. And if they're creating a new roommate or any of the items, it will be empty, so they can create a new one. This is the MVC architecture diagram for my app. The view component of my app, which is controlled by the storyboard, will react to user interactions and taps. It will also display the list of all the roommates, tasks, items, and shows, and also display views so they can enter new information about these items. It will also update the table view cells with the most recent data. The view component interacts with controller, which is controlled by the view controllers, by updating table views with new information about the roommates, items, tasks, and shows. The controller components send new roommate, task, items, show data to core data for storage. Also updates views with new data and handles user interaction and fetches core data. The controller interacts with the view by handling user interaction, such as when they tap the control buttons, use the back and forward buttons, and view and edit cell info. The controller also interacts with the model, which is the objects that store the info about the objects in core data. I have 4 objects which were seen in my class diagram about roommates, items, tasks, and shows. The model will also notify the controllers when data changes, and this interacts with the controller by updating the information and saving the roommate information, the photos and colors, and saving the new items, tasks, and shows. App called Roomy. When you press the Add Roommates button, you'll be taken to the Roommates screen where you can see the list of all the roommates. At the bottom, you can press the Add Roommate button and you'll be taken to this screen where you can add the name, select the color for the roommate, and add their photo. When you press Add, they'll be added to the roommates list. You can also add as many roommates as you'd like to this list. When you press a roommate, you'll be taken to the Edit Roommate screen where their information will be populated into the fields, and here you can edit the information for the roommate. So they change the color here to red and save, and her color changed to red. When you go back to the main screen, you can press any of these lists in the orange box. The first one is the to buy list, which lists all the items that your roommates want to buy. You can press the add item button, which will take you to this screen where you can add the information of the item, the roommate to buy it, and the date you need it by, and press add. This will populate onto the to buy table view. You can also add as many items as you want to this list, and we'll sort by roommate. When you press the edit button, you can edit and delete certain items in this list. When you go back to the home screen, you can press the next list called Do, which will show all the chores that your roommates need to complete. When you press Add, you'll be taken to this screen where you can add a task to complete, change the roommate, and change the date that you should complete it by. And this will add it to the list. And you can add as many items to this list as you'd like. And also add and delete from this screen as well. This is back to the home screen. You can press the To Watch button, which will take you to this table view of movies that you want to watch with your roommates, and you can press Add Show at the bottom. This will add a show. You can enter the name of the show and change the roommate. Once you've done this, you can press the Find Showtimes button, which will take you to a web view, which will automatically type in the movie that you entered and showtimes. And if you scroll down in Google, you'll be able to see the showtimes for this movie. And once you find a showtime, you can hit back and add that showtime to the date and add it to the list. You can also add as many movies as you want to this list. So some of the capabilities of my app is that the data is stored permanently in core data. So when you close and reopen the app, it'll still be there for the user to see. It's also a very simple user interface, which is pretty easy to figure out how to add and to view with pretty basic design. Another feature is that you're able to remove and edit current items easily just by clicking the table view cell, which takes you to a screen to easily edit each item in the table view. Some of the limitations of my app is that right now different users can't connect to their different accounts, so ideally you'd be able to add your roommates and see what they've added on their app. I'd also, in future iterations, add features to be able to sort the list by date or name or item. And finally, I'd add another feature which would allow the user to set up notifications when certain items or things that they need to complete are coming up. Some of the lessons I learned while creating this app was it's very helpful to sketch out the storyboard before implementing all of the views because there are a lot of different views and it can be complicated to start implementing it all at once without having a plan of what you want the entire app to look like. Another thing I learned was that it's very important to name variables and classes appropriately because there were a lot of different functions and classes, and if I didn't name them or put them in folders and keep them organized, it became very confusing. And lastly, to give yourself enough time because when creating an app that was very complex, it took a lot of time. Some suggestions I have for the class is I think it would be very helpful to have the lecture in a computer lab because I did not own a Mac laptop and sometimes it was difficult to follow along in class or if I had questions to bring in my project to class.